Hello, welcome to the Villages, Florida. My name is David. I'm a realtor with Florida Realty Investments, and every week we take a look at the real estate market in Central Florida, specifically the Villages. I live in the Villages, and if you have any questions about what life is like here, please reach out to me at either DavidisinFlorida.com or DavidisinFlorida@gmail.com. We produce this show every week, which is designed to give you a very thorough understanding of the Villages real estate marketplace. You'll get an understanding of the different regions of the villages and long-term price trends, both price, days on the market, or any other data points that we find interesting. We do this every week, and if you want to stay informed, please consider liking and or subscribing to the channel. You won't find a better source of market data out there. Couple of things to note. First, all of this information is drawn from the multiple listing service. The Villages has two real estate marketplaces, the VLS and the MLS. The multiple listing service is what you're familiar with from other real estate markets around the country. The Villages has a separate marketplace, the VLS. None of our data incorporates VLS information. If you want to buy a new home, the VLS is the only place you'll find one. If you want to buy a pre-owned home, you look on either VLS or MLS, and you really should have representatives who can show you properties on both marketplaces. If you have only one, i.e., if you're only looking on the VLS or you're only looking on the MLS, you will not be seeing everything for sale here. Also, I'd like to mention we have a website, DavidisinFlorida.com. Please feel free to check out information we have there. If you have any questions about real estate in Central Florida or the villages or life in the villages, please reach out to me at DavidisinFlorida@gmail.com or at DavidisinFlorida.com. So with that out of the way, let's take a look at what's happening this week. We start every week by taking a look at the yield on the 10-year government note. The mortgage rate most closely tracks this yield, and you're looking at the yield going back a little over a year. Currently, we're around 4.3% on the 10-year. Over the last year or two, we've been between 3.8 and 5. We're right in the middle of that range. A lot of people seem convinced that rates will be heading lower from here. I don't know what they're basing that on. We are borrowing $1 trillion every 100 days here in the US. Hard to imagine that rates will fall, even though we all might want them to. So I'm going to start by orienting you as to where the Villages is. For those of you who don't know, we are in Central Florida, about an hour north of Orlando. I'm going to zoom in on this map. Every dot that you see represents an active MLS listing. The size of the dot represents the size of the home, and the color of the dot represents its price per square foot. The larger the circle, the larger the home. The lighter the circle, the more expensive per square foot, i.e. the darker, the less expensive per square foot. And I think it's illuminating if you compare it to the identical information on this map, which is showing you those same listings, but in this case, we're looking at price and size. And you can see that by narrowing properties down by price per square foot, you really can focus in on what might be a good deal. I'm going to add this map in as a bonus. This map is showing you all active listings in the MLS currently that are under $200 a square foot. You can see where they're located. You can see their relative sizes. If you have any interest in any of these properties, please reach out to me. I'll be happy to help you learn more about them. I've also broken the villages down into 4 separate regions. The first I'm calling the North, which is everything south of 42 and north of 466. It incorporates Spanish Springs. The second area I'm calling the Mid-North, which is everything south of 466 and north of 466A. This area includes Lake Sumter. The third area is the Mid-South, which is everything south of 466A but north of 44. This includes Brownwood. And the final area is that which I'm calling the South, which is everything south of 44. I'm going to break down the differences between these regions. You can get an idea as to what sizes of homes and what prices of homes are available in each. But first, let's take a look at some long-term trends. So we start by taking a look at the total number of listings on the MLS. This week, 462. Last week, 470. A year ago, there were only 308. Currently in the villages, prices range from 151,900, which is reduced by 37%. It was originally almost 240,000. Most expensive house on the MLS currently just under $3 million. Same price as when it was first listed. Some small signs of relief here for sellers. This week, the median time on the market for all listings is 60 days. Last week, it was 62, which is the highest that we'd seen. And this is our last long-term trend. Before we start looking at the differences between the regions and the villages, we're looking at the median listing price for all listings on the MLS. This week, down slightly to 259.43 from 259.67 last week, and almost identical to the 259.42 of a year ago. So now let's take a look at the differences between the regions of the villages. This slide shows you all active listings on the MLS. You can see the smallest, largest, and median size, most expensive, least expensive, and median priced home. And on a per foot basis, the least, most expensive, and median priced homes. The bottom two graphs are showing you how many listings there are at each price point. And the graph on the bottom right is showing you how many listings there are at that dollar per square foot point. So now we'll break down the different regions. In the north, there are 209 active listings, ranging in size from 875 square feet to almost 4,000 square feet. Price per square foot in the north ranges from $138 a square foot to $448 a square foot. And the median price in the north is $340,000. In comparison, the Mid-North has 137 active listings, ranging in size from 1,100 to 4,200 square feet, ranging in price per square foot from 197 to 634, and the median priced home in the Mid-North is about $420,000. This is the Mid-South, only 50 listings currently, ranging in size from 1,156 square feet to 3,875. Price per square foot in the Mid-South ranges from $210 to almost $800 a square foot, and prices range from $300,000 to just under $3 million. And this is the South. It's interesting that over the last couple of months, the number of listings in the South has actually exceeded the number of listings in the Mid-South. I don't know if that means that more houses in that area are coming on the market, or that the Mid-South is becoming more desirable and fewer people wish to sell there. Just a couple more overview slides. We're going to look at all listings here. This is the dollar per square foot. You can see in the north, middle south, and south on the left, and for the villages as a whole on the right, how many listings there are at each of these dollar per square foot price points. Similar information, but here we're looking at price, not price per square foot. You can see how many homes are available in each of these price segments for the villages as a whole on the right, and for the north, middle south, and south on the left. Once again, this is the number of homes available at each price. And this is the last graph of its type. We're looking at how many homes are available at each size. So, for example, on the right, you can see the villages as a whole. On the left, the 4 different regions. And you can see how many properties are being listed at each of these size points. Looking at the villages as a whole, it's evident that almost all the properties here are between 1,000 and 2,000 square feet. This is the graph that gets us interested every week. We're looking at how many properties are entering the market and how many are leaving. Entering is new listings, leaving is homes going pending. This week, 33 new listings and 37 homes going pending. Last week, 25 new listings and 47 homes going pending. A year ago, there were 24 new listings and 38 homes going pending. Interesting to compare this year to last, the number of pending home sales is about the same, but the number of new listings is about 50% higher. The previous graph gives rise to this one. We're keeping track of the difference between new listings and homes going pending. This week, or I should say last week, that difference was 4 more homes going pending than being listed. The previous week, 22 more homes went pending than were listed. Last year, that was a positive 23. Looking at this graph, numbers below the zero line represent more new listings than homes going pending, and numbers above the zero line represent more homes going pending than being listed. We analyze homes that went pending to get some idea as to pressure on prices. This week, the median price change for the homes that went pending was a reduction of 5.23%. improving from the previous week where it was a 5.71% reduction. But sellers are having to offer greater incentives than they were a year ago when the reduction was only 4.8%. This is the median price at which homes went pending last week, and quite a dramatic fall. Fell last week to 240.59 from 268.32 the previous week and 251.52 the same week a year ago. This is one of the worst readings we've seen. If you look at this graph, which is not smooth, you can see that we're at the lowest end of the range on homes that went pending for the last 2 years or so. And perhaps more signs of distress for sellers. This week, the median time on the market for the homes that went pending was 55 days, which is almost 2 months, compared to only 26 days the previous week and only 33 days the previous year. Once again, I should remind you this graph is a 4-week smoothed average, whereas the data points are actual weekly numbers. So let's take a look at the homes that sold and closed last week. They numbered 29, down from the 32 of the previous week and significantly lower than the 41 of the same week a year ago. Prices for the homes that closed last week ranged from 318.9, which was originally 329.9, a reduction of 3%, to a home that sold for $1,200,000 that was originally $1,600,000, which is a reduction of 25%. There are deals available here in the villages. If you'd like to find one, reach out to me. I'll be happy to help. This is the median price per square foot realized for the homes that did close last week, 252, up from 239 the previous week, and up from the 242 of the same week a year ago. The slope of the trend line is still lower, but it is encouraging for sellers when they see prints above that trend line. Sold time is the median time on the market for the homes that closed last week, 36 days compared to 41 days for the previous week and better than the 48 days for the same week a year ago. These are two new graphs we've added recently. The first, we're looking at how many sales took place per week. Last week, 29 compared to 41 the previous week and compared to 26 for the same week a year ago. This graph is comparing year over year. The blue line is 2022, the green is 2023, and the red line is 2024. Here's a graph we've been asked about. We decided to start keeping this data. This is how many weeks of inventory is represented by the current number of listings. I'm just dividing the number of listings by the number of sales in the previous week. We definitely should keep an eye on this going forward. The number of weeks of inventory has about doubled over the last 3 months. And our last look at all listings, we're looking at how many listings have reduced their asking price from the original listing price. This week, 51.3% have. Last week, 53.09% had. Last year, over 57% had. And here we look at what the actual reduction was. This week, the median reduction for all MLS listings is a 4.18% reduction. Last week, it was 4.26. A year ago, it was 4.83. That is this week's look at the village's real estate market. If you're a buyer and you're trying to find a good deal here, or you're a seller and you're trying to maximize your return in a reasonable period of time, please reach out to me at davidisinflorida@gmail.com or at davidisinflorida.com. Be happy to help you with questions about the villages, real estate in Central Florida, or what life in the villages is like. I hope to hear from you. Take care.